Hey everybody, Fred Minnick here. Sorry for the technical difficulties coming in about 18 minutes late. The Russian hackers overtook my Facebook and they demanded a bottle of rum. And so we had to find a way to get Russian hackers in Franklin, Tennessee rum. It all worked out. We're safe. Everything's good.
We're good.
We're good. But we're here actually to talk about my new book, Rum Curious, Taste some rum, and I'm joined here with my friend Heath Clark, who runs the Heath Clark Distillery. But I want to tell you a little bit about how this came to be. I'm always being asked to sign books for people who are all over the world, and I can never get them a damn book, because they're in Japan or they're in Canada, and I can't, fly to Toronto specifically just to sign a book for someone. So Live Signings reached out to me, and it's a huge honor. These guys do great events with people. For them to invite me is a huge honor, and anyone in the world can get this. So please share this on Facebook, share this on Twitter, Instagram, InstaFace, Snapchat, whatever type of social media you get. Because as we're going, you can still get a signed book. So now I'm going to turn it over to you, and you're actually going to flip the switch on me. I've interviewed you several times over the years. Now you're going to interview me.
Turnabout is fair play. So
Yep.
my name is Heath with H. Clark Distillery. We're located right here in Franklin, Tennessee. We're actually just south of here in the small town of Thompson Station, one of Tennessee's many craft distillers. And so it's an honor for Fred to ask me to come interview him to talk about his new book, Rum Curious. For those of you that don't know, Fred is an Army veteran, so served many years in the U.S. Army. So thank you for your service. I certainly appreciate that. And Wall Street Journal best-selling author, and so he really sort of cut his teeth on a book called Bourbon Curious, which did more than just describe bourbon. It really changed and amplified the bourbon culture in America, sort of demystified this classic American spirit. And then last October, he released a book, the Rise, Fall, and Rebirth of the American Whiskey, a great history of bourbon. And so he's now turned his attention to rum, which, for a guy in Louisville, this is a bit of a record scratch moment for a lot of people. So there's probably a lot of the audience out there scratching their heads right now that they're thinking, the sage of Pappy is now going to turn his attention to the spirit of Jack Sparrow, right? So, when I think rum, I think pirates. I think, Pirates of the Caribbean, that whole scene. So, tell us a little bit about rum and why your passion about rum led us to this book.
You brought up Pappy, what we're tasting now. I'm going to go straight to what we're tasting. We're tasting Foursquare Criterion, and this is I believe that this distillery is the Pappy of rum. The stuff that they are putting out is phenomenal. This is one of the best rums I've ever tasted. The only rums I've ever tasted that were better were from this distillery.
From that distillery.
So
that's what we're tasting here, right?
Yeah, and actually I got this as an importer sample, so I don't have a front label, but it's just got available in Kentucky. I don't know if it's in Tennessee, but you can find it in the United States, and it's called Criterion. Foursquare's in Barbados. Richard Seal is their distiller, and he's one of these guys that actually influenced me to write this book. And rum is in an interesting period in that people are starting to there's people from the bourbon and Scotch side and even brandy to an extent are starting to look to other spirits that have some value. And for me, there's a lot of incredible value in rum, but there's a lot of landmines there. Like, you do not know. You'll taste one rum where someone added a lot of additives like honey or wine or sugar, and they're still able to label it rum and within the laws, so they're not breaking the laws per U.S. government rules. And then you'll taste another one like Foursquare or Appleton or Richland Rum, which is made in America, or Rum JM or Rum Bar, and they won't have anything added to them. And so a person will taste one that's really, really sweet, and then get one that is just the fermentation, distillation technique, and the barrel technique, and it's more you know, rich with natural flavors, if you will. And so a lot of people will taste one and say, well, I don't like rum because I don't like that, or it's too sweet, or that's not rum because it's not sweet enough. And so there's a lot of these things going on from just the production side of things that give you a lot of different flavors on the palate. Now, just from a world perspective, rum is an fascinating history. It really begins to take off in the 1600s. The British Navy is giving it to their sailors for medicinal purposes. Some doctors believe that if you didn't drink, several glasses of rum, you would die out on the sea. And so it was actually, for the health and wellness of rum, or for the sailors. George Washington loved rum. He took a trip to Barbados and actually had rum brought back to the country just for him, so he could have it in the States. So in the United States, we kind of...
So whiskey, bourbon is sort of America's spirit,
right.
But the first spirit of America was rum.
Yeah, the first one that you see a lot of, certainly brandy would have had an argument for that. Rum was right there. A lot of the American Revolution was based on molasses taxes and tariffs. People were not very happy with that, so they would, they boycotted it. Some of that led to the Tea Party, and you had all kinds of efforts in this country to actually penalize rum, and specifically between like 1810 and like 1830, when America was trying to figure out a way to build infrastructure and create jobs, which that's a never-ending story. They decided to place extreme tariffs on molasses and rum imports.
And for the audience that doesn't know, whiskey is made out of corn or barley or grain. Yeah. Molasses is the precursor to rum, right?
Yeah, so, there are different types of rum. The most common one out there will come from molasses, which is a byproduct of making sugar. And that is what molasses looks like. I'll get a little closer there so you can see it.
So the favorite use of molasses in Tennessee is barbecue sauce, right?
Right.
So it's a major ingredient in barbecue sauce, and it's that dark, syrupy product that comes from sugar refining.
Yeah.
And that's the main ingredient in rum.
And you'll also see people like in Martinique, they'll use fresh sugarcane juice. Richland Rum, which is a Georgia, the state, not the country, they have their own sugarcane. They grow their own sugarcane and they make a syrup. Mm-hmm. And so there's the law states that it basically has to come from sugarcane. And so
not sorghum.
Sorghum. So the government is allowing people to distill sorghum and call it rum. They're also allowing them to distill sorghum and call it whiskey. So the federal government needs to make up what it's mine, but the laws and the traditions state that rum should only come from a sugar cane base and not sugar. So like sugar, like sack sugar and so forth, that typically is used in the hills for moonshining.
So back to the Revolutionary War, we've got taxes on the main ingredient in rum,
right.
Which is molasses, and so that drove a lot of friction with the British government and the colonists here. And the main ingredient being sugarcane, which is a very labor-intensive crop grown in really hot, almost tropical environments, really. And so,
oh damn, that's good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So the history of rum is also a bit of the history of it's a big precursor to slave trade and all those early.
Rum is right smack in the middle of the slave trade. In fact, it was the abolitionists were starting to plant and preach about sugar beets, so that sugar cane would not be harvested, and so there's a huge connection between slavery and rum, and that is and unfortunately the islands never recovered from that from a financial perspective, and when the people started moving away from sugar cane as its main sweetener out there, and they started going more to sugar beets, and cheaper forms of sweeteners. Even now we have high fructose corn syrup. That led to a decline of those respective islands because that was the majority of their revenue was from the sugarcane, and they would go into impoverished states. And rum would be like one of the last kind of like traditional industries of those islands. For example, like Jamaica, it used to have more than 100 rum distilleries.
Oh wow!
Now there are only 5. So you have an incredible heritage there. And to me, Jamaica is kind of like Jamaica is like the Kentucky of rum, in that they have a heritage and they kind of have a very unique flavor profile. And Barbados is a little bit like like Scotland, where they also have fewer distilleries, and they only have 2 that are owned by Bajans, which is the term for Barbados natives, and that's Foursquare and St. Nicholas Abbey, and so they kind of have their own little terroir, the distilleries in Barbados. But at any rate, the sugarcane industry has been in decline really for a very long time. Even now, sugarcane producers are looking at, well, do I want to turn this lot into a golf course? Do I want to turn it into a condo? Could I turn this into a resort and make more money? And so what that impacts, it impacts the quality of the molasses that you're able to buy on the open market. And for those that don't know, Heath here is trying to make his own rum. And this is what like a rum sample, or what a molasses sample would look like on the brokerage level. And it's very difficult to get Caribbean molasses right now.
Find, yeah.
So most people are beholden to Florida molasses, and if they're lucky, Louisiana molasses. And this is something that I don't know as a fact through experience, but through my interviews, I learned that the more advanced the sugar refinery, the worse the rum, because they're actually extracting the majority of that sweetness out of there. And so in the Caribbean, the sugar factory is a little less advanced, and you get a little bit more sweetening coming through in the molasses.
That's exactly right. So with the history of rum, you've got taxes and conflict and war. And it all comes back to this stuff is really good. If we're going to fight about it and it's going to cause that much friction, why? If it wasn't really high quality, heritage based spirit, why are people fighting about it? And so, how do you sort of bring that full circle in your book? I'm curious.
Well, we're in a time of pick a day and someone's pissed off about something on social media. It could be someone's didn't put cheese on their cheeseburger and it trends on social media, or it could be someone saying the wrong thing in public. Well, in rum, there are actually real things that I feel like should be getting more attention. I mean, not in just our world, in like the spirits world and the spirits consumer world, but we have our government is subsidizing rum distilleries, and it's
not just a little bit either. We're talking
$3 billion.
$3 billion.
Yeah, so that's money that is earmarked for distilleries. There's also a special cover-over tax for our territories, so like Puerto Rico, St. Croix. They don't pay the same excise taxes that you do when you distill here in the United States on the mainland. And they also, the countries get to keep that, so they appropriate how they see fit. And there's a lot of people that believe that leads to inferior rum, or trying to get mass-produced rum, or it can lead to some ineffective governing with the taxes. And every year, I feel like our Congress looks at Puerto Rico and studies their debts, and it's like, how can we help Puerto Rico? And Bacardi, and they're a behemoth. I'm not saying. I mean, if it wasn't for Bacardi, I don't know how strong of an island Puerto Rico would be. And of course, Puerto Rico comes from Cuba. In Cuba, we're I said Puerto Rico comes from Cuba. I meant Bacardi.
I was thinking that we're getting some geologic history.
Yeah.
Right?
But Bacardi comes from Cuba, and of course, that's always a discussion with rum. It's like, when are we going to get to taste, Cuban rum in here again with a Cuban cigar? And I'm always asked, is Cuban rum really that good? Yeah.
The stuff I've had is pretty
Yeah,
spectacular.
it's really that good.
So we get back to governance, taxes, control, type. So if you go buy a bottle of bourbon, it's at least 51% corn.
Yeah.
It's been put in a new oak barrel. It's been distilled at a certain proof, and there's no additives to that product.
That's right.
So when you buy bourbon or Tennessee whiskey, you're not just buying a spirit; you're also buying a stamp of quality.
Yeah, you're getting a guarantee of production.
Right.
Quality,
fair
I
enough.
think that might be debatable depending on the brand. But you're getting a guarantee of quality, and you also have something that's highly watched over.
Right.
And I feel awful for a lot of these rum distillers, because they don't have a central body that will effectively tell their story. Because you can make rum anywhere in the world. You have all these different styles.
It's not just the Caribbean, right?
Yeah,
It's
you can make it. There's rum being made in Venezuela. There's rum being made here. You have rum being made in Mexico, all over the world. And here's a good example. So if someone makes fake whiskey, so in the Philippines, it's very common for someone to make a product and not actually be that product. And if it's whiskey, nobody is calling out Scotland for not being regulated or whatever. If it's rum, they say, well, rum is not regulated, and thus.
So it's sort of there's no holds barred with what people can call rum.
Yeah, well, that's true, but it depends on the country. Like Jamaican rum, you can't add things. Bajan rum, if it's bottled there, you can't add things. So in Martinique, they have very strict rules in Martinique. It has to be fresh sugarcane juice. They have fermentation and distillation laws there, and there are places where it is strict.
Well, let's sign some books for some of these people in Martinique and Venezuela.
Do we have anyone from Venezuela? Who are we signing books for? Just everyone. All right. So, did you know that not far from here, there was actually a rum distiller in the 1800s?
I did not.
Yeah, there was some rum being made here not too long ago. Apparently, Tennessee is not a bad place to grow sugarcane.
It's not at all. And when I was growing up, the family down the road from my family farm had their own molasses mill, and so we'd grow sugarcane on the fields near my house, and then every summer they'd cut the cane and grind it and cook it, and had some spectacular molasses. That's in southern Tennessee, sort of close to Lynchburg, and to my knowledge, nobody ever made rum out of it, but they probably should have.
Well, in the 1870s, there was a rum distiller here, and he had a nice rum according to the accolades he got in the newspapers. But I'll say this: the majority of American rum, came from New England, and so you have a little bit of a resurgence on that now. There's a rum in New England called Privateer. I'm a big fan of theirs. You can find them in the book. But American rum, it used to be you couldn't trust it, because much like rectified whiskey, they would just add stuff. And so if you bought rum here in the States between 1880 and I want to say 1905, there's a good chance that you may actually not have had a drop of molasses, no sugar cane at all. It'd been grain neutral spirit colored. And what I mean by rectified, that was a business that was actually, they would take the spirit and they would add things to it and label it whatever they wanted to. And you saw that was a big problem in whiskey, and it was a bigger problem in rum, because the real rum couldn't stand out. They couldn't get anybody to appreciate them. And so actually in the early 1900s, Jamaica got a special order from our government that gave them a special designation, and so none of those imitators could call their rum Jamaican rum. So, and it's funny because those rectifiers, in a sense, is not too dissimilar from some of the issues that people face today.
No, it's rampant, and quality around labeling and that guarantee of production is important, and it's tough even in the whiskey space still to sort of know what you're getting.
Well, in whiskey, look, whiskey's got its problems, but you have brands blatantly putting in fake age statements in rum. So
So what's your goal with the book in terms of educating the consumer on how to approach that? Is there insights in the book on what's legit rum? Who are the folks who are shooting it straight? Who are the folks who aren't?
I absolutely do that, but more than anything, I bring out the issues. I try not to give my opinion, like on other than when I'm like tasting the rum. Like this is we should probably move to this in the next tasting. This is a rum that they do. It's done by the people who do Cognac Ferrand, and they do a what they call their dosage technique and their blenders, and it will have, like, if you were to test it with your hydrometer, you would see a pretty high reading, and it is sweet.
So
So
it's real sweet.
and they put, they do their blending processes, and it comes out on the sweeter side. But I scored this rum really high. I don't necessarily think that sweet is bad. I just want people to be honest about it and talk about it. And I think Richard Seal, who is the distiller of Foursquare, and many others like Joy Perrine, who is Joy Spence, who is the master blender for Appleton Estates. They're in an effort to try and actually change the labeling laws for rum so that something like this is not considered rum. So, like this, the geopolitics of rum is so in depth, and it's being led by the distillers a lot more than it is the consumers. The consumers do talk a lot about this in our world, but you will find, and this is where whiskey and rum are much different. You will find distillers being very vocal against rums that have dosage or honey added or sugar added, and Appleton Estates. This is a brand where you can find everywhere. You can find it everywhere, and they're competing against multiple distilled products that are later than they have glycerin added or whatever, and they're just the barrel. A lot of rums will add food coloring, they'll say for quality standards, and that's another big difference between whiskey and rum is they'll add coloring, but at the same time, I think there's a place for a lot of these, and you'll find that the spiced rums, which that's where they add a bunch of their spices, you'll find that those are actually extremely well received by connoisseurs and people like you and me. So we all like a change of pace. We don't always just want straight spirit.
Though it's nice to have a spirit that you can do mix a little bit or just sort of influence with different.
And rum is so flexible in the cocktail shaker.
So other than a mojito, what are some of your favorite rum cocktails?
My favorite rum cocktail is the Hemingway Daiquiri. My second favorite is probably the Daiquiri. And I think a lot of that has to do with the Hemingway Daiquiri. I love Ernest Hemingway, so I've just naturally appealed to a cocktail that's named in his honor. And I love Luxardo. Luxardo is a maraschino cherry liqueur that's a staple in it. Yeah, but I asked one of my best friends, Max Solano, who's a brilliant bartender in Vegas, to come up with some recipes for this book. He's got some kick-ass recipes.
Oh, that's great.
Very tiki-centric. So
I like it. Cheers to
yeah,
Hemingway.
To Hemingway.
So we were drinking a Foursquare rum and reading the label that this was aged in bourbon barrels and Madeira wine barrels. You know, I've had several, Scotch
You can
whiskeys
really
and
taste the
bourbon.
Madeira.
Yeah, but
Oh,
sometimes in
God.
whiskeys it comes across as darkening that whiskey too much. Or,
Yeah.
but here it just.
I'm
it's
telling you,
perfect. This is fantastic.
This distillery, I've been there, I've talked to him, I've tasted their stuff, and they will have a range of products that just are completely different. And it's all in the blending. They are, they're kind of going back to what they believe to be like the original kind of Caribbean styles, and that's a blending of pot and column. Whereas in American whiskey, you're distilling from a column, putting in a barrel and moving on, or you're distilling from a pot and putting in a barrel and moving on.
And so
they'll take the pot and the column and they'll blend it, and they have such a wider spectrum of flavors that they can get to just on that technique. And then by adding like cognac barrels, sherry barrels, Madeira barrels, bourbon barrels, specially created barrels just for them, I feel like you have so many flavor dimensions.
So the using a column versus a pot, you can get sort of lighter flavors through a column. You get these more heavy, full body flavors from a pot.
Yeah.
So these guys are able to use that to be able to create.
Yeah,
what
they absolutely do.
And
They
this
get
is
there.
fantastic.
So let's go to I'll go to this one now.
You go to that one.
You're busy.
I'm not gonna rush this one.
I don't want you to rush it. We definitely won't rush it. So I'm going to go to the one Plantation XO. I really love this.
And that's the one with a little bit of sugar added and sort of
Well,
blending, right?
I think they actually don't like that term. It's kind of funny. Like people who are very vocal about this being being good, will say no, it's not just dumping sugar in there. They actually have techniques that they use, very similar to champagne and cognac. And in Venezuela, they argue that it's part of their heritage. And the same in Guatemala, Panama. I think sometimes people play up their heritage a little much.
It happens.
But the people behind Pierre Ferrand, they're French. This is actually kind of what they do in a lot of ways. So, and they actually just bought a distillery in Barbados. They got the old West Indies distillery.
Oh wow!
So, and that's sitting right on the beach. So I cannot wait for them to throw a party, so I can come down there and just drink rum straight from their pot still, and
Yeah, you'll end up on the beach doing
do a
that.
hula hoop or whatever. Stay on the beach, but.
And so, and this is produced. Do you know if it's
They'll always put their
pot or column or how they?
Well, they're getting stuff from all over. So they're
sort of blending. Mix.
yeah. Well, they're like a negociant, and that they would acquire. They've got like a 2001 Jamaican rum. They have a Guyana rum. They have a Barbados rum, and this one, which is a combination of several old rums. It's my favorite of theirs. And their package represents that kind of style.
No, it's. I tried it earlier, and it's almost got. It doesn't taste. They've added sugar, but it's like a sweetened product. It tastes. It's very uniform and balanced, and sort of it flows with what they're trying to pull off. It's pretty tasty. We've got a couple of minutes more to taste some products. Do you want to talk a little bit about the 21-year-old Appleton Estate rum quickly?
Yeah, so Appleton Estate is a Jamaican rum, and Jamaican rum is very much old school, similar to Foursquare, in that they're trying to let the rum, the base ingredients and the distillation technique, and they're big on blending. So they're they're major blenders. And the big difference in rum from whiskey is that you have an evaporation point, like you have like 3 to 5% a year, the angels share. They will actually top their barrels off every year in Appleton. So while they are losing some, they're trying to keep that headspace in the barrel to a minimum. So that this is a real age statement. There's a lot of rums out there where you'll see like 15 or 16 or whatever, and there'll actually be one 16-year-old barrel in there
And a
like,
drop of right.
And so like you can't always trust age statements on rums, and that's unfortunate. By law in the United States, the youngest barrel in the batch has to be the stated age. So let's, for example, if there were 150 50-year-old barrels in this batch, but there was only one 21-year-old barrel, then the only age statement they could put on here would be 21. And so that would be, they don't have to put an age statement on there, but that is the law.
Let's talk a little bit about an American rum.
Yeah.
So we've got Richland Rum out of Georgia. We've got one of our early craft distillers in Tennessee was Pritchard's, and they make some nice rum down farther south of here.
Phil's a passionate man.
He is.
Yeah.
And the Richland Rum guys, they're actually an estate grown, so they grow their own sugar cane.
Yeah. So he's a Dutch. Let me just go. You go ahead and pour yourself first. Here, I got a little bit left. He's a Dutch. The Dutchman, and he came to America and had this really. He had this passion for rum and didn't really see much going on. When he retired, he decided to start a rum distillery about 5 minutes from where President Jimmy Carter grew up.
Near Plains, Georgia.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's right by Jimmy Carter's home.
That's pretty cool.
And Jimmy Carter actually signed a barrel at Richland Rum.
Now Jimmy Carter's Baptist. I don't know.
Well, you know what they say about Baptists.
I grew up Baptist, and I own a distillery, so.
You go fishing with them. You go to the bathroom with your 6-pack there. Suddenly it's gone if you go.
I always heard they always take 2 Baptists fishing with you.
Yeah.
If you just take one, they'll drink all your beer or rum.
The point of the thing is that the Baptists are drinking when the non-Baptists are around.
We're now Methodist, and that's just so we can talk to our.
I'm Catholic, so that's like I can drink going to church.
There we go. We just want to be able to talk to our fellow parishioners in the liquor store. So, right. And and in terms of a flavor difference, what do you think? How does Richland's?
So the one thing that they do is that they're going into a new charred oak barrel every time, and so they've got a lot of bourbon-esque flavors to them. So if you're a bourbon drinker, this is an American rum that will really appeal to you, and you can tell in the color too.
Gold.
They're doing their fermentations are about 10 days. So they do a long fermentation as well. So I think they're getting a lot of good esters and flavors being formed in their fermentation techniques. But I love what they're doing. I talk about them as much as I can, and I'll tell you that they're the highest rated rum, American rum, in my book.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Richland Rum out of
Richland, Georgia. Yeah.
So I think we need to take a few fan questions now. So let's see. When you coming to Tulsa?
Soon enough. I don't know if a lot of people may know this, but I'm originally from Oklahoma, and I have a lot of friends. A lot of friends out there. I promise. I'm trying. I'll get out there. I actually may just come just to hang out. May not be doing a book signing.
Rodeo. You do rodeo in your spare time too, right?
I used to rodeo.
Is that right?
In high school. Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I rode bulls, and it was awful. Yeah, there's videos of me somewhere out there just falling off and nearly collapsing to death.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't awesome at the time. I'll tell you that.
I grew up, we on a farm and we raised cows, and I have zero interest in trying to ride one of those suckers.
Screw them, right?
Yeah,
Just
right.
eat them.
Let's see. All right. So, what do you see as the future of American craft rums? And that's from Trey in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
That's Trey. How are you? I know if this is the Trey I'm thinking of, this is Bayou Spirits. He has a few rums out there, and he has a brand called Bayou, which I'm very excited about.
I've tried Bayou.
Bayou does a nice job.
Yeah.
What I think that the trend in craft rum is figuring out how to distill it. I think that's got to happen. I think rum is much more complicated to ferment and distill than whiskey and other types of spirits, because it all starts with the molasses you get.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get shitty molasses, you're kind of starting in a negative. So
good ingredients in.
Yeah,
better.
I think you're going to start seeing, and where he is, he's kind of got he's got a little bit of a corner on the Louisiana molasses, and that's the most coveted molasses in this country for rum distillers. Everyone's trying to get it, but Trey's got a good corner on it. I would love to just taste Bayou straight out of the barrel. So Trey, if you're listening, just add it, bottle it cask strength. Don't water it down. Just put it in the barrel.
Just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, just put it in the bottle. I mean, if your cask strength is 180 proof, well, maybe lower it a little bit, but yeah, I think you'll start seeing some nice 110 to 130 to 40 proof stuff coming from American distillers, because that's the trend in whiskey. And I believe whiskey consumers are spirits consumers. They're not beholden to just whiskey.
Yeah. So here's a question that's not quite about rum. This is more. This sounds a little bit like a job interview question.
All right.
But this comes to us from.
What accomplishment am I most proud of?
It didn't really say for who asked that question.
Okay.
So what accomplishment are you most proud of?
I think it was probably meeting my wife. I mean, if it wasn't caveated as a professional one, but meeting my wife led to so many things in my life, but most importantly, my son.
Yeah, I saw a cool picture of your son. So he's doing T-ball, right?
Yeah, he'll be doing T-ball soon.
That's exciting. Oh, that's awesome. We just finished our first year of T-ball with my son. That's good stuff. All right, do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm probably an extrovert, but when I want to be an introvert, just stay the hell away from me. That fair?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one more of these. And so what's on your bucket list this year? Let's hope it's not this year. So what's on your list to do this year? What's the one thing that you hope to accomplish in 2017? I'm running the Bourbon Chase, where you do relays through like all the distilleries. It ends up being like 200 something miles. Kind of like a Ragnar relay type thing?
Yeah, exactly. My wife's doing that, and I'm running it with her, and I just hope I don't die.
Well, that's a good goal.
Yeah.
Not to die while you're running.
Yeah, I used to be a runner, but then I got fat, and those things happen.
Life happens.
Yeah.
I was doing a triathlon a few years ago, and like a guy died like in our swim corral group. It's kind of freaks you out a little bit. So hopefully you will finish that without dying.
Yeah. Let's see if I can help you here.
Let's do one more. This Kentucky Bourbon Authority. So how do you come about becoming a Kentucky Bourbon Authority? And is there such a thing as a rum authority?
Well, sure. There's absolutely a rum authority, but I would say my friend. Let me just do the Kentucky Bourbon one first. It all has to do with the Kentucky Derby Museum, whom I have a contract with to do their to do tastings and do stuff on the Derby Day and what have you. they were trying to come up with a title, and there's not like a sommelier for bourbon. And they wanted something that would be appealing. And one of the women who ran the place at the time was like, "Well, you're an authority on bourbon." I was like, "Yeah, I guess that's true." I mean, because some people come to me with questions and and what have you, and so it's like, "Okay, you're the bourbon authority." Because it's kind of how it's really how simple it happened.
That's awesome. You make up your own title.
I did not. They did.
They did. Okay.
I just kind of said, okay. It was better than. I don't remember the other ones that they had, but they were really odd and awful, and I was kind of a little embarrassed by them. I really don't like titles. I'd rather just be author or Fred or whatever.
Did you get like a big medal or a badge with this, or how does this work?
No, but you can get medals now in whiskey.
Really?
Yeah.
You can like wear like a.
Yeah, Tom Fisher's got a sommelier program, and you get a big old medal like that. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Would you want to taste some more whiskey?
Oh, you wanted to ask me
rum?
like the Rum Authority.
The Rum Authority.
Yeah.
Right.
So there are actually a lot of those. And the Rum Authority title is taken by a gentleman by the name of Dave Russell. Ed Hamilton is someone I admire and respect. He's now an importer. My dear friend, whom I will only refer to as the Cocktail Wonk. Go to cocktailwonk.com. He's a brilliant rum writer. Big fan of his.
Write that down.
Yes, seriously, he's an amazing rum writer. And his level of detail, really reminds me of it's kind of like the aspiration of every writer is like you want to nail the details, and Matthew nails it. And Ian Burrell, who's in the UK, he's more of an ambassador than a writer, but he's definitely a rum authority. But there's many people across the world who are rum authorities and what have you, and I find that the best authority is yourself when it comes to drinking what you like, and that's the case with everything. But with rum, you just don't always know what is what, and that's where you do need someone to help guide you. And I think in some respects.
Very good. You want to try? Let's do a silver rum.
Yeah.
So we haven't done any of those tonight. So this is a silver rum, and this is unique in that it says it's aged 2 years in oak barrels. So let's taste this, and can you explain how
Right.
a rum aged for 2 years in oak barrels is silver? You got a little water in there. I don't know if you know that.
Sorry. Yeah. So what they do in rum, someone at some point in time decided that it behooved them to. First of all, this is Ron Cartavio. Which Cartavio, it's a Peruvian rum. So just kind of a case in point that rum can be made all over the world. Peru, which is the home of Pisco, is making rum, and one of its sister extensions, one world's best rum in San Francisco, of which where I'm a judge. At any rate, so what they do is they will take rum that has actually been aged for 2 or 3 years, and they will filter it and strip out all the color.
So this smells like an aged rum.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly smells like just a cask aged.
It does.
If you put it next to, Appleton or the plantation, the nose is very similar, and that you can smell those oak tannins, which is just mind-boggling that it's crystal clear.
And that's purely stripping out the flavor, or stripping out the color.
It pulls some of the flavor out. It's not as tanniny with the
No.
barrel, but it's good and smooth. It doesn't
I think that with a lot of these, it gets them tasting a little alcohol-y, a little vodka-like, and I don't think it's ever a good thing when rum tastes like a vodka. So I always want to taste rum, like the base, the richness of the oak that they would use to age it. So I like these fine. I like the stripped rum's fine, but to me, let the color stand. It's just it's something that that became popular with like the people had people thought that rum was supposed to look like that, and a lot of rum decisions were made by people in suits and not the distillers, in the 50s through the 70s. So
There we go.
Yeah.
You want to switch gears and try the Rum JM VO. This is a Martinique Aged Rum, and you were saying earlier that Martinique is very particular with their type definitions.
yeah, Martinique is, if you were to pick a country that had the most finite definitions and styles, it would be Martinique. Martinique is an agricole, so fresh sugarcane juice. A lot of history here too. It's a French island. One of the stories that I like to tell about Martinique is that in the early 1900s, it suffered one of the greatest tragedies in of the 20th century, but it never got really any coverage because it was a Martinique, and it was World War I happened, a decade later, but a volcano erupted and it decimated the island, including a lot of distilleries. So Martinique to me is kind of it's a connection to a lot of those people who passed in that, and the island is stunning. It's one of those where it doesn't pop up on a lot of cruises, but if it does, you want to go to it.
It's going to be special. So this one's a nice dark color, and you said they use fresh cane syrup.
No,
so
fresh cane juice.
Fresh cane juice, sorry.
Yeah.
So the nose is distinctly different, I think, because of that.
Yeah, you get a lot of grassy notes in
Yeah.
this. You get a lot more earth.
It's a brighter smell, so you don't get that traditional, molasses-y tone
Yeah.
off the nose. But it definitely has a different nose. I like it's fresher.
I find that Martinique rums, which are spelled RHUM, I find that they are really appealing to Scotch drinkers, because you get a lot of similar, visual notes from those those younger Scotches, like below 10-year-old Scotch, like whether it'd be like a Glenfiddich unaged or non-stated age statement, or even like a Jura 10-year-old, you get a lot of vegetal kind of
Really earthy tones from those grains,
notes. Yeah. So I feel like you get a lot of earth in here. It's just a different type of earth. It's more of on the grass side.
That's pretty spectacular stuff.
What's interesting is make a daiquiri with this,
But it's really different. I mean, so I think you could say that the rums we tried, the dark rums, they're very distinctly different, but they have a sort of a core, commonality in their flavor profile.
Right.
This one's different. It's distinctly different, but it still has that rum feel. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's you'll find like a lot of people in rum will gravitate toward cocktails with some of these. As kind of mentioned from the top, I consider myself more of a sipping expert, or not necessarily a sipping expert, more of a sipping person than cocktailer. I love a good cocktail. Do not get me wrong. I love cocktails, but after I've had one, I just want to taste the spirit. I love feeling the way see how it feels on my palate, and seeing how what the distiller was trying to do, or what he screwed up with, or how she saved it in the blending process. So I have an affinity for what's in the bottle versus the chemistry that takes place kind of outside the bottle.
Folks ask me what do you mix our stuff with, and usually I say ice or water. I think I don't put ketchup on steak, and a good spirit you shouldn't have.
Who does put ketchup on steak?
I've heard, and he also eats them well done, which
President Trump.
I don't know. That's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow.
So this is
Tell us about this guy.
This is Rum Bar. It's a gold. I brought this one.
Jamaican rum?
It's Jamaican rum. It's from Worthy Park, and Worthy Park and Appleton and Hamden are kind of like, for me, the trifecta of Jamaican rums. And Rum Bar is pretty widely available. It's I don't know who their importer is, but I find it in my total line. So you can find it in a lot of places. And this is when you find recipes calling for a gold, like for a gold. By the way, the definitions that you see on most rum labels: silver, gold, white, dark, or or black. You'll see black sometimes, but it's all based on food coloring. They don't they actually do not have a gold means nothing. Dark rum means nothing. It basically means the color of it, and most of them are adding food coloring. As you can tell, this is a pretty light one, so I would, and this is 4 years old, so I'm assuming they had a much lighter amount of food coloring that they would have added, because they could have amped it up a little bit. But the one thing about Jamaican rum that you get more so than other rums is you get like a funk. You get like something really, like if you're just tasting Jamaican rum for the first time, you're not really sure how to take it, and you're like, oh, what is that? It's like best way to describe it's funk. It's like it's like a Jamaican
almost
funk.
an endemic yeast to rum. So from
that's exactly right. Jamaican rum, they've got like they've got a very rich history with like natural yeast.
Mm-hmm.
They have
it's tough to get that cultured and actually exported. So it's almost, you could only get that flavor in Jamaica for just the reasons of the.
Well, you could try to bring it back with you, but it would mutate on the plane.
Turn into something else. So just by way of geography and biology, you can only get those flavors in Jamaica.
So this is a good rum, not great, but definitely a lot of fun to play in cocktails. I mean, you could do when it's good, and I mean I'm not sipping with this, with my Monte Cristo or anything, but it's a good rum.
So we've got time left for a fun little game.
Let's finish this and finish with the beast.
We started with that. We didn't talk about it, did we? So I agree.
Well, actually, we did talk about it. Have you been drinking that much?
Well, we talked about it at the beginning, but
we did talk about the beginning.
We should finish with that. This is spectacular stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I cannot say enough things about what. And I'm not paid, by the way, just in case anyone ever wants to ask, because this is this particular world. It's kind of common. I'm not paid by any of these guys. These are all rums that I drink, that I brought here, that I wanted to taste and talk about. And they're, so this is organic. My passion for rum is in these particular rums is organic. There's no incentive for me to talk about them.
So in some of your writings, you've pushed back against price escalation in bourbon, and you mentioned early on value. Do you see just great value or lack of sort of artificial price inflation with some of these rums?
And that's why this is why whiskey drinkers are coming to rum, is because they are tired of not being able to buy the bourbon they want, and then when they do, they get there, it's $300, whereas 15 years ago it was $40. So today, this rum right here is $80. How many bottles would you buy at that price point?
All they had in the store.
Every single bottle.
Yeah.
I know how many cases are coming to Kentucky, and I'm doing my best to buy every case. It won't happen, but I know I'll get at least a handful. This one, as a 21-year-old, is probably one of the most accessible, increased age that you will find on the market. And I'm very high on this one, the Appleton Estate 21-year-old. It's only $95.
That's incredible. That's
and,
really
and this is like, now, again, these would be like if this was like Pappy. These are in the same kind of like price points as like the Four Roses limited edition or the Pappies or the even to an extent like some of the more higher end Macallans or Highland Parks, and that's why people are coming over here, is because they're looking for flavors that they can afford, and everybody can. Most people can afford $100 and below. Now they can't afford that every month or every week, but for that special occasion, they can afford it. And this right here, I think they're selling this below, $40, and this is $15 and below. So I mean, you have a lot of you have a nice fluctuation of pricing there. But I go straight to the higher end stuff, like what I think is the best rum in the world, and I'd pay $80 for it, several times over. So.
Well, cheers to some good
Cheers.
tasting. Yeah,
we have some.
End on a high note. We've got a little game we're going to play. It's called 22 Questions in 2 Minutes. Now,
And I haven't read these.
Given the cues that we've gotten from our
though.
producers, getting us to do anything in 2 minutes is going to be a challenge.
That's
but we're
right.
going to give it a shot. All right. So we're going to start, and so that doesn't give you a lot of time to think about or answer these questions. But let's give it a go. So
And
here we
read 'em
go.
all.
We're going to start on 3, 2, 1. Who inspires you the most?
My wife.
Who would you like to trade places with if you could?
You.
Oh, well, thank you.
That-
Name a fictional character you'd love to date.
I'm married.
You're married.
Can't date.
Who makes you laugh the most?
My friend Lou Bryson.
Who's the most unexpected person in your phone?
The former University of Oklahoma coach Barry Switzer.
Look at that. Who is the last person you called or texted with?
You.
What is your dream car?
1965 cherry red Ford Mustang.
That's nice. What one thing do you need to have in your fridge at all times?
Probably ketchup, so my toddler doesn't lose his shit.
It's a good answer.
Yeah, he loves ketchup.
Yeah, mustard. My kids.
Yeah,
are big
mustard
fan of
too.
mustard.
Yeah, but ketchup one
Ketchup.
on waffles. Once mixed with.
Ketchup on waffles.
He once wanted ketchup mixed in a pumpkin puree.
So at some point you've got to step up. What's your favorite pastime?
Bourbon.
What is your secret snack?
Oh.
Mine's gummy bears. I love gummy bears.
Fig Newtons.
That's a good
Yeah,
call.
so Fig
Those are
Newtons.
pretty
I had to
good.
think about it for a second.
What is the last gift you gave or received?
I gave my wife a coffee warmer.
Nice.
Yeah, she liked that actually.
What item would you die to get your hands on if it went up for auction?
Well, so in the 1800s, and I'm sorry, I'm skewing away from
Yeah,
rum
we've
a
got
little
about
bit here.
25 seconds here. We got
1872 Old Crow.
what? Whiskey?
Yeah,
Oh,
1872.
what is your first memory?
Getting hit in the head by a Tonka toy.
Nice. Was your brother involved?
No, damn shelf collapsed on me.
That's terrible. What was your favorite movie as a kid?
Ace Ventura.
What cause is dear to your heart?
Anything veteran related.
Yeah, so plug for the Bourbon Bash. We've done it
Yeah,
a couple years in a row.
we do.
for Wounded
That's how we
Warrior
know
Club.
each other. We do a lot of charities together.
What was the last movie you saw in theaters?
John Wick. John Wick 2.
I don't think I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, mine's Star Wars. That the kids
Fuck
love.
Star Wars.
What is the one? What is the one skill you wish you had?
I wish I could, dunk a basketball.
Yeah. Do you
Or
have
throw a
any,
95-mile-an-hour fastball, left-handed.
Do you have any hidden talents?
Yeah, I'm a pretty good imitator. I can do imitations of people after I've been in the room with them for about 5 minutes.
So you're good at observer of character.
Yeah,
And-
well, I don't know if that's hidden. I guess it's kind of incognito. It's the same fucking thing. Of course it's hidden.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I love what I'm doing, so I hope I'm doing the same thing. I hope I've helped raise the bar a little bit on what people think about spirits.
Where do you want to go that you've never been?
Like a place or
Doesn't
a
really
dimension?
say. I think a dimension.
A dimension?
Nirvana.
You know, honestly, I would like to go to. I'd like to go to Antarctica.
That would be pretty cool.
I'd like to go to Antarctica and see like penguins and polar bears, that sort of thing. Yeah.
I want to go to Everest.
Oh, fuck that! I ain't climbing that shit.
Not maybe up to the top.
Oh,
Just
not to the
basically-
top. Just like go there and like do a selfie with it.
That's right.
I could do that.
Yeah. Maybe go to the ice
And
fall
but
and then punch
but
out.
because of the extra steps that I had to do to get there to get the selfie,
Yeah.
I'd want barbecue and like a good rum
Mm.
or a bourbon and definitely beer.
I might
feel
go
like
to Camp 2, but that's it. That's it.
how far is that up?
It's 21,000, 28,000.
Are you serious?
I'd love to do it.
Can you distill up there? Bring your distill with you and
I
still.
think alcohol would probably evaporate at like 150 degrees, so it'd be efficient. Where would you spend retirement?
Kentucky.
How do you take your coffee?
Black.
There we go. That's 22 questions in about 7 minutes. So
We did all right.
not too bad.
Yeah.
So for those out there, don't forget Rum Curious. You can buy your signed copy from tonight at rumcurious.com. And then you can also look for Fred as he moves around the country and the world talking about rum and bourbon. And hopefully you'll find him in Tulsa, Oklahoma very soon.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully we get to taste your rum because I'm excited about it. And the only advice I can give you is get as good as molasses as you can. Don't distill it a shitload of times. And be honest with whatever you do.
That's the plan. So we're with what we're working on is we do a fairly unique whiskey where we make an oatmeal stout beer. We call that whiskey our black and tan, so we get sort of a big chocolatey note in that whiskey. And I think aging some of that rum in that whiskey cask could create some pretty cool flavor profiles.
So like you asked me the rapid questions for me. I want to ask you.
All right.
What rum do you aspire to be that's on this table here?
Oh,
And this is a distiller. So this is a distiller. So this is the ultimate compliment. What rum do you want to be here?
you couldn't do better than Foursquare. Those guys are pretty spectacular. The flavor's balanced and round. So I would aspire, I'm going to aim for the top. And so if I could be as good as those guys.
Swear to God, a common brand some common brands from Foursquare that you can find, pretty accessible. Dorley's, which is available in Total Wine.
Mm-hmm.
The Real McCoy is also pretty widely available, and that's named after the real Bill McCoy, who was a bootlegger. And then and there's a seal bottle. It's black, and it kind of curves around. It's got a seal on it. But you can find they're starting to increase their efforts in the United States. I think some of it's so people like Matt, the cocktail wonk, and I would shut up about like when you're getting here, when you getting that, because all the Europeans would get the releases and we wouldn't, and we were offended. And as you know, as Americans, we're very easily offended.
We should have a Twitter outrage over this.
I mean, we could actually trend for social justice as to why Foursquare is just now getting here. But no, it's great that they're here, and Criterion, that's awesome. And the thing is that there's one of them that's better. And I know it's hard to believe, but their 2006, so amazing. So amazing. Actually, Spoiler alert. Is it okay if I give a spoiler
Go
on the
for it.
book?
Absolutely.
There's one rum that got a perfect score in my book. And I just mentioned it. So,
The 2006.
yeah.
We'll see if you can find it. So we don't have Total Wine here. That's a bit of a sore spot in Tennessee, but we do have fine retailers that bring some good stuff in. So we'll
Well,
visit your local package store if you're in Tennessee and see if they've got your favorite rum.
always shop local when you can. The chains are great too. At the end of the day, when you're buying spirits, you're actually contributing a lot to your local economy because so much goes in taxes.
You are. I saw some news out of Kentucky. Even it's about a $14 billion economic impact to the state of Kentucky.
Yeah.
And Tennessee estimates that just craft distilling in Tennessee is about a $675 million impact to the state of Tennessee.
I mean,
So
I'm just a writer. I'm able to write books about this stuff.
that's great.
So it's my pleasure. But I couldn't do it without people wanting to read about it, and really, I write about what people want to read. You make what people want to read. Distillers create what people want to taste, and that's really what it's all about. But at the same time, if you screw up, folks are going to let you know.
They're going to let you know.
No matter where you are in the process. So here's to hoping we did not screw up tonight. And if we pissed you off, I'm extremely sorry. Wasn't my intent.
We'll blame the rum.
We'll
Cheers.
blame the rum. Cheers. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for Premier for having us. Please support your local booksellers. You can find this on livesigning.com. You can find it at Premier Collectibles. Thank you so much. Cheers.